Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be the first reading blog of the month. I usually like to have at least 3 books going at the same time because I'm a big mood reader. So it just really depends on what I'm feeling like in the moment, and then that's the book that I end up picking up. I usually always have an audiobook, an ebook, and I try to have a physical book, but it really depends on what I'm in the mood for. But let's go ahead and pick from my October TBR jar. There's also still some September books in here because if you watched my September wrap up, I miserably failed at trying to get through my physical books. And so quite a them are still in here. But let's go ahead and choose. I have already started an ebook. I am reading A Dark and Drowning Tide, and I am so excited to read this book. It has a sapphic romance, a murder mystery, water dragons. Perfect for October spooky vibes, in my opinion, or let's hope. I think it has a very gothic feeling as well, so I am excited. I've barely started, I'm like 2 pages in. But let's go ahead and see what other book I'm including in the vlog, because once again, if I'm just not feeling A Dark and Drowning Tide for any particular reason, I'll jump back and forth between that and something else. So I'm going to go ahead and try and pick a purple one, because those are my physical books, as well as an orange for my audiobook. Let's go ahead and see. Just by the way, even though I'm looking at them to make sure I pick the right color, I cannot, for the life of me, see what's written on them because I'm very blind and the glass itself distorts the writing in there for some reason. But okay, let's go ahead. Ooh, orange. All right. Which audiobook am I going to be starting with? The Gathering Dark. This is an anthology of short stories, I believe. Okay, perfect. So we have the audiobook and we have the ebook. So let's go ahead and choose a purple. This is where I'm scared because I don't think this will be horror whatsoever. I don't have any horror physical books. And my October TBR is mostly horror, gothic, dark fantasy. But just in case I need a break, I guess I'll have a physical book as an option. I'm scared. Don't be Sense and Sensibility. Don't be Sense and Sensibility, please. I do want to read it. I need to finish it. I don't have anything against Jane Austen. I really want to read her work. I'm just not in the mood for a classic. Am I ever? Oh, this is long. Oh no. The Once and Future Witches. Oh, this is perfect. I guess it's not horror, but witches. Witches, Halloween, October. That's a vibe. This is by Alex E. Harrow, and it's the only book by her that I have yet to read. This is perfect. Oh my god, I'm perfect. I'm excited. Great. Okay, so we have our 3 books: The Gathering Dark, The Once and Future Witches, and A Dark and Drowning Tide. I'll give you guys an update as soon as I have thoughts on any of them. I need to start actually reading them. Little reading update. I apologize for the noise and for the lighting. But a really good friend of mine came to visit that week, and we ended up spending quite a few days together. And so, although I was reading, I just didn't really film myself reading. So I thought I'd just give you a little update as I sneak in some clips while she was here. Basically, us just encountering a bunch of cats and enjoying it. And then I ended up going up to my hometown for a few days as well. So I'm just going to include a few clips here and there of those days and give you a little voiceover with my thoughts on the books so far. I am halfway through A Gathering of Shadows, The Gathering Dark, The Gathering Dark, I believe, the audiobook, and I am really enjoying it so much more than I thought I would. I thought I was going to be a lot more scared, and don't get me wrong, I have definitely been spooked out quite a few times. My jaw has hit the floor. It is a lot more graphic than I'm used to, but with that said, I am loving the atmosphere, and I'm getting spooked, guys. It's not an audiobook that I can listen to before going to bed, so it's taking me a while. I am taking notes on every story, just a sentence or so, just to be able to remember them because there's so many, and I want to make sure I can recall by the end of the book which were my favorites at least and give them a little shout out. I think it was also very well edited and put together because although every story is its own story and it's very different, they somehow managed to fit together very well and all hold a similar kind of feeling or and I mean, yeah, duh, they're horror, but I mean more in the sense that you could almost place them all in the same world or happening at the same time, just in different parts of the world. I don't know if that makes sense. All the main characters so far have been teenagers, usually in their later teens, and maybe because of that, it has felt very seamless, the transition from one story to the other. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So that's my little update on The Gathering Dark. I am also about 15% through A Dark and Drowning Tide. I'll give you more of an update once I've read a bit more, maybe once I'm at the 50% mark as well, but so far I'm loving it. It's giving very much dark academia vibes, rivals to lovers, hopefully. I'm crossing my fingers. I mean, it is a sapphic romance, and I can see it coming. I can see the foundation of the relationship being built, and I'm loving it because it's giving me kind of the similar feeling to Six of Crows or the Atlas Six, that kind of writing and dynamic between characters. So if you at all enjoyed Six of Crows or the Atlas Six, not that this plot follows that really at all, but if you enjoyed the feeling, the vibe, if we must, the aesthetic of those other books, then I'd say so far, I mean 15% through, you would really enjoy A Dark and Drowning Tide. Reading update. So I finished The Gathering Dark and I really, really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I took some notes on it to make sure I didn't forget what I even read because every chapter was its own short story with the exception of one, I believe. Can we also please just ignore my glasses? Yeah, they are in desperate need of change. They're crooked, they're, oh my god, they're falling apart. Their days have come to an end, and I will be getting new glasses tomorrow. But back to The Gathering Dark. I had so much fun with this book. I had fun getting a little bit spooked out. I thought the horror element was done very well, and I believe I said this before. Let's pretend that shirt has not been there this whole time. I would describe it as young adult horror, and I had a really good time with it. I've been struggling with the young adult lately, and I think this one just did it perfectly. I really liked it. A lot of the stories I wish had been longer. If you have read the book, my two favorite stories were the first one, Stay, which I thought was a very great way to start the book. And I also found that a lot of the stories were more sad than scary, and this one specifically talked a lot about grief and learning to let go and just acknowledging when it's time to move on while still holding a lot of love and grace for those you lost, but not letting it drag you down or keep you stuck in a place that they wouldn't want you to be in. So I really like that one. And then the Talus Poppy was probably the creepiest one for me, just because it had dolls and a haunted house. And anything with creepy, scary little children and dolls, just that is pure nightmare fuel. So I did not enjoy that one as much. And I made sure not to listen to it at night. And then I think my second favorite one was Ghost on the Shore, which felt way too short. This was basically a tragic, sapphic story, once again about grief. And I don't know if that says something, but the two that I ended up enjoying is not the right word. The two that I ended up appreciating the most were about grief, and I wished Ghost on the Shore had been just a teensy bit longer, so that we'd gotten a bit more of the love story and a bit more of the background. But once again, I thought it was very well done. I also thought it was very funny how in one of the stories in It Stays With You, they mention Hunger Games. And I just think it's so funny how Hunger Games has become part of society's modern lingo, and how we can just reference Hunger Games as if it was a classic book, which I mean it is. It's a modern classic, right? And it will become one of those books that gets studied in schools and just becomes a full-on, fully fledged classic as time passes. But I thought it was really funny that not only did they say volunteers tribute, I think, at some point, but also they mentioned Katniss, just threw her name in there without ever having to say Hunger Games. And yeah, that just goes to show that Hunger Games has really made a mark. However, that one used the trope of a Bloody Mary, and it was pretty creepy. But once again, the main overall message of that story was about friends helping each other through trauma, and that one was very graphic. So go ahead and read the trigger warnings before reading The Gathering Dark, but I thought it was a great way to start my little horror journey of this month. And with A Dark and Drowning Tide, I'm still around 50% through, and I am loving it. I'm loving the dynamic between the characters. I'm loving how the enemies to lovers is being set up, the little banter between them. I love our main character. I love that she's snarky. I love that she's moody. I love that she's a bit of a pain in the ass. She kind of reminds me a little bit of Cass from Six of Crows. So if you like that book, I think you would like A Dark and Drowning Tide. But I will give you a better update once I have finished it. I just realized I also have given you zero update on The Once and Future Witches, and that is because I have yet to pick it up. What is my problem when it comes to physical books? We'll see if at any point I get through this throughout the vlog. I hope so. I hope so. I hope this month I end up reading at least 2 physical books. Last month it was only 1, so 2 would be great. 2 would be a win. So let's see. I'll give you guys an update once I have more thoughts on these books. I went back home, as I mentioned, and I got to spend a lot of time with one of my best friends, and she was the sweetest and gifted me these stickers. Huge thank you to Angie for gifting me these. I feel so lucky. I love the one with the book with the little mushrooms, little plants, as well as this one. This is my dream. This is all I want in life. A little bookshop and cute autumn vibes. Also, this, how cute is this little frog? Love me a good mushroom. Love me a good freaky burb with this little white eye. Perfect vibes for this time of year. As well as this one, funky little rabbit. Whoever the artist is of all of these, thank you. You've done a beautiful job. And the jam one, I don't know why this just spoke to me. I love this one so much. I love the style of it. I love how vintage it looks. But yeah, I have no idea where to place these. If you guys have any ideas, please let me know. My bottle is full. My laptop is full. Should I just keep them forever and never actually use them? Because that's just the kind of person I am when it comes to stickers. But yeah, just thought I'd share. Look, I'm just obsessed. And let's also ignore the fact that I'm missing a nail. I need to desperately go and get them done again. But yeah, so cute. final update, I finished A Dark and Drowning Tide. Let me just double check. Yes, I finished A Dark and Drowning Tide. Oh, let me look at my notes for this. I finished this last night. This vlog has taken so long. I got sick 2 days ago and just crashed. When I tell you I hibernated like a bear, I think I ended up sleeping a total of like 15 hours somehow yesterday. But my body really needed it. And I also finished a book yesterday, which was just kind of a weird experience in my feverish dream state that I was in. But let's go ahead and recap A Dark and Drowning Tide. So basically, we follow Lorelai, our main character. She's a folklorist, and she gets chosen by her mentor to join them in this adventure or this task to find a magical spring, a magical well, which is told to be the source of all magic in this world. So Lorelai, along with six others or five other students and their mentor, get chosen to go on this adventure to find this well for the king. First night of the adventure, I think it's the first night or the second night, on the boat, the mentor gets murdered. And so the murder mystery starts. Lorelai has to figure out who murdered the mentor. It, of course, has to be one of the six people on the boat. So I just love that whole concept of it being a closed murder type of thing. And her and Sylvia, who is a naturalist, and also her rival and her nemesis, and like Loki, her biggest crush ever, have to work together to find out who killed their mentor and what is going on. And so the first half of the book was great, impeccable, 10 out of 10. I was loving it. I was loving Lorelai and Sylvia. I was loving their dynamic. I love the fact that Lorelai is snarky. She's rude. She's not really a nice person, and it made me like her 10 times more. I love the way that her and Sylvia had really good banter, really good bickering. You could see the foundation being laid for their enemies to lovers romance to bloom. And then the second half of the book just completely lost me. I don't understand why, because the atmosphere was so good, the world was so cool, the magic was cool. There were not mermaids. There's another word for them. They weren't mermaids. I'll put it on the screen somewhere. I keep forgetting what they were. But it was just a really cool world, really cool atmosphere. I really liked Lorelai's job as a folklorist. Her job was to collect folk tales from everywhere and study them together to be able to find their root truth. Because folks and myths, at the end of the day, are a medium to tell history in a way. And so her job was to compare all these different folks and all these different myths and find the truth that united them all. And I thought that was so cool. I also really liked Sylvie's job as a naturalist. She basically had the same job as Lorelai, but more in the field, in the ground kind of work. Like she would go out and interact with all these magical beings and learn about them. And the other characters in there were also kind of cool. I do wish, and this is where I think the book went wrong. I think it would have been so much better as a duology, kind of Six of Crows vibes, or even as a trilogy like The Atlas Six or Shadow and Bone. It gave me very similar feelings to those kind of books, that kind of world, that kind of fantasy, those kind of characters. I feel like the interactions between Lorelai and Sylvia were very much like Kaz and Inesh a little bit, and just it was giving me similar vibes to those kind of books, but it just wasn't done nearly as well. It just wasn't executed the same way that those other ones have been. And sadly, I think the second half of the book just felt so flat. It felt rushed. It wasn't satisfying at all. The plot just went nowhere. We somehow ended at the exact same place that the book started. Like nothing got resolved. The romance felt really rushed between Lorelai and Sylvia. I felt like it was going so well and they were slowly starting to get to know each other. And then out of nowhere, we just threw this kissing scene between them and then a sex scene between them. And I think the reason why this book is categorized as adult and not young adult, even though it really reads like young adult, it reads like Shadow and Bone, it reads like Six of Crows, it reads like the Atlas Six, which, well, the Atlas Six reads more adult, I would say. But it has that same vibe of dark academia, fantasy, young adult, murder mystery, adventure. But because we have this sex scene thrown in there, it's then categorized as adult, even though it read very much young adult. And I think if it had been a duology or even a trilogy, it would have given us so much more time to explore these side characters and get to know them so much more and get to care for them so much more, because I feel like we didn't learn anything about them throughout the whole novel. We ended up at the exact same place that we started with, just a couple more dead people, and I guess like a romance, like cute-ish resolved romance. But once again, I was just too rushed, and I didn't really believe it for Lorelai and Sylvia by the end of it. So sadly, this was quite a disappointing book, and I'm so upset because the beginning was so good. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that for the review. I managed to read The Gathering Dark, right? Yes, The Gathering Dark and A Dark and Drowning Tide for this vlog. I ended up reading a couple other books in there. Just it was a weird reading couple of weeks, but we're done. I am sadly only like 100 pages into this book, so I'm not gonna be able to give us a review. I'll be finishing this at some point through the month, and you'll hear my thoughts on it on my October wrap up. But yeah, I am really enjoying it. I love Alex E. Harrow, so I'm expecting to love this book by the end of it. But I'm still struggling with my physical books, so we shall see. And if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll see you all in my next video.